Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa ba'd. Ahlan wa sahlan to our class Fiqh for Islamic Banking and Finance. And our topic today is Bai'ul Istisna. You can unmute your video so that it will appear on this recording. What is Bai'ul Istisna? Bai'ul Istisna is one of the concepts used in Islamic banking and finance in the offering of the products. So Istisna comes from the word sana'a. Is a kind of sale contract where the subject matter or the product is transacted before it comes into existence. So, for example, you order a shirt or a house. So the sale contract is conducted even before the goods is delivered or before the goods exist. For example, you buy a house, you make an akad, and then the house is to be manufactured and delivered to you at some point in time, at some point later. So istisna is a kind of sale contract where a subject matter is transacted before it comes into existence. It means to order a manufacturer a specific subject matter for the purchaser. Now, for example, a house or a curtain or even a business card or any other products. So if the manufacturer undertakes to manufacture the goods for him with the material from the manufacturer, the transaction of istisna comes into existence. But it's necessary for the validity of istisna that the price is fixed, the price is determined with the consent of both parties, the purchaser and the seller. And the goods to be delivered must be with a certain specification. For example, the house. What is the specification of the house? Is it it can be one bungalow or semi-D or terrace. So the specification of the subject matter maqfud alayh must be determined and mentioned and must be fully settled between the seller and the buyer. So the price and the goods must be specifically mentioned and consent or agreed by both parties. In other words, istisna is when one party buys goods that the other party will manufacture according to the specification in the contract and according to the agreed price. Istisna is a contract of acquisition of goods by specification or order, where the price is paid in accordance with the agreement of the seller and the buyer. This is practiced, for example, for the purchase of a house to be constructed, where the payment made to the developer or the builder is according to the stage of work completed. For example, stage 1 is paid 30%, stage 2 30%, stage 3 30%, and stage 4 10%, for example. And istisna is different from salam contract. In istisna, there is no requirement for the buyer to make the full payment in advance. So in istisna, the mode of payment can be negotiated. It can be in full payment, or it can be on installment basis. It can be paid in installment. The word istisna is derived from the Arabic term sana'a, meaning to manufacture a specific commodity. In Islamic banking, istisna is an agreement whereby a customer requiring an item, equipment, building, or project which needs to be constructed, manufactured, or assembled, and the customer approaches the bank for financing. For example, the customer wants to buy a house. He would approach the bank for financing to buy a house which is yet to be constructed. And the bank offers to have the item constructed, for example, the house manufactured or assembled and delivered to the customer at a later time. The buyer can pay the price later, either in lump sum or installments. Usually in practice, the buyer pay in installment. According to Madhab Hanafis, istisna is a contract of goods ordered on loans, provided to follow the descriptions or the specifications given. The Hanafis use the word istisna as a sale and purchase contract with a condition. For Hanafis, istisna is not salam and it's not a promise to sell. Hanafis jurists opined that istisna is not the same of salam. So according to Hanafis, istisna is not the same as salam. Hanafis define istisna as a sale and purchase contract with certain condition. On the other hand, Malikis and Shafi'is maintain that istisna is similar to salam. To Malikis and Shafi'is, the concept of istisna is similar to the concept of salam, because both involve ordered items. But what distinguishes them is the type of goods ordered. So according to Shafi'is and Malikis, istisna and salam are the same because they both involve items which are yet to be manufactured. The only difference is ba'ul istisna usually refers to the items to be manufactured, while in ba'ul salam usually refers to items of agricultural products such as rice or paddy, wheat, or any kind of fruits, mango, rambutan, durian. So Ba'u Salam is usually usually involves agricultural product. For example, a buyer wants to buy a, a paddy harvest. So a buyer will pay in advance, and the paddy or the rice is delivered once it is harvested. That is Ba'us Salam. Some jurists define istisna as a contract or akad of ordering a manufacturer to do or to make certain goods according to specific descriptions given by the customer. By istisna, one individual can engage, for example, a cobbler to make a pair of shoes for a fixed price. Or another example, order a tailor to make a suit, a dress, to be delivered later. According to Imam Al-Kasani, to qualify as istisna, the material of object must be from the manufacturer. All the materials to be used must be from the manufacturer. For example, if the good is a suit or a dress, so the clothes, the textile must be from the manufacturer. If it is provided by the customer and the manufacturer has used his labor and skill only, it will not be the contract of istisna.
Ya, Assalamualaikum.
Instead, Alaikumsalam warahmatullah. Instead, if the goods comes from the buyer, then it will be a contract of ijara. That is a contract to hire services of a person who undertakes a specific work. Let's take another example. Suppose the good to be manufactured is a house. If all the materials used in building the house comes from manufacturer, then it is not. If the goods or the materials to build the house comes from the buyer, then it will not be istisna. It will be the contract of ijara. The buyer just pay for the service of the for the service to the builders or to the manufacturer of the buildings. Any questions so far? So conditions and fundamental requirements of istisna. Hanafis acknowledge three conditions for the validity of istisna. The first is the subject matter of istisna should be precisely mentioned in terms of its kind. For example, the house. What kind of a house? Is it single-story building or double-story building? Um, Semi-detached, bungalow. So it has to be a specific in terms of kind, quality, and quantity. And there should be some work or performance involved in the manufacturing of the product. And it also, the third condition is the time of the completion of the work and delivery should be mentioned and should be fixed. So there are three conditions according to Hanafis. The specification of the subject matter, the work or the performance involved in the production of the commodity, and the time and the delivery of the items or the commodity must be mentioned. Unless otherwise mutually agreed, any party may cancel the contract unilaterally if the seller has not yet incurred any direct or indirect cost in relation thereto. So if no cost is involved yet, then the contract may be cancelled unilaterally. However, if the goods manufactured conform to the specifications agreed between the parties, the purchaser cannot decline to accept them unless there is a defect. However, the agreement or the contract can stipulate that if the delivery is not made within the mutually agreed time period, then the buyer can refuse to accept the goods. For example, you order a shirt, for example, or a suit to the tailor, and the tailor promise within, for example, 2 weeks that the shirt will be ready. So when you go and the shirt is not ready at the agreed time, then you can refuse to accept the goods. In current practices of Islamic banking, the bank is the buyer in the istisna, can enter into a parallel istisna contract without any condition or linkage with the original istisna contract. So this is the parallel istisna. So there are two contracts. In the first contract, the bank will be the buyer. So this is between the bank and the manufacturer or the builder of the house, for example. And in the second contract, the bank will be the seller. So the bank in the second contract will be the seller and the customer will be the buyer. So this is called the parallel istisna. Each of the two akad or contract shall be independent of the other. The first one is between manufacturer and the bank. The second is between the bank and the customer. The two contracts cannot be tied up in any way. That the rights and obligations of one contract are not um, that obligations of one contract must not be dependent on the rights and obligations of the parallel contract. In other words, in the parallel istisna, the first contract and the second contract has nothing to do with each other. They, they are two separate contracts, and the first contract, the obligations in the first contract are not related to the obligations in the second contract, and vice versa. In istisna transaction, the buyer shall not, before taking possession of the goods, sell. The buyer cannot sell or transfer ownership of the goods to any other person before taking possession of the actual goods. You buy a house, the house is to be constructed and not yet finished. And then you are not having the possession yet. So you as a buyer shall not sell or transfer ownership of the house to any other person. Any questions so far? Ahmad, you have any question?
Thank you, sir.
Do you have any questions so far about
No, sir. I
istisna?
don't have any question now.
Oh, if you don't have question, that means you understand.
Yes, yeah, this is not.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So in istisna, the manufacturer must use his own materials. In, for example, to buy a house, all the materials needed to buy a house must belong to the manufacturer. Because if the materials used in building the house belong to the buyer, then it's not istisna. It is called ijara.
Yeah,
So the buyer just hire the builder to build the house, and the
yeah,
buyer buy all the materials. Okay. If so, it is not permitted for the manufacturer to stipulate in the contract of istisna that he will not be liable for defects in the subject matter. The so in istisna contract, the manufacturer is liable for any defect. In the IOFI Sharia standard, you can download, if you like, you can download IOFI Sharia standard. It's a huge volume. You can use as a point of reference. Nobody studies the Sharia standard. It is used as a reference when needed. I think it is more than 3,000 pages you can download. It's a huge volume. I don't know how many pages, but it's a huge volume. I tried to print, and I printed in 4 volumes. So it's very huge volume. So in the Alfi Sharia standard, the key considerations of istisna includes the following. Number 1, the customer executes an istisna contract with the Islamic institution, requesting the Islamic institution to construct or manufacture a specified type of goods. The contract specifies the type of goods to be manufactured and constructed by the bank, the price that can be paid fully in advance, in deferred installments, or upon full completion. Date, place, and manner of delivery. The delivery date is only required if this is necessary for the customer. And mode of payment, cash, whether it is cash, tangible goods, or usufruct of an asset for the specific duration. Number two, according to RFE, goods delivered which is not within the specifications can be rejected by the ultimate buyer or be accepted by the buyer with or without a price discount. So if the goods manufactured is not according to the specification, then the buyer has a choice whether to accept or to reject. If the goods delivered are within the agreed specification or of the higher quality, the buyer is obligated to accept, unless a higher price is demanded by the seller. If the goods are ready, but the buyer delays in taking delivery, the goods in the possession of the manufacturer will be on the trust basis, and the manufacturer is not liable for any loss or damage unless the negligence and misconduct of the manufacturer. The manufacturer can sell the goods to a third party to recover its contract price and return the balance if any, or have recourse against the buyer if the price is not sufficient. For example, you as a buyer buy a house from a bank, and when the house is ready to be delivered, for example, you as a buyer fail to make the payment, then the bank has a choice to wait or to sell the goods to another buyer and pays back to you as a buyer the balance that you have already paid. The third condition, cancellation of the contract is allowed as long as the manufacturer, that is the Islamic bank, has not commenced work. So by all istisna is considered as permissible based on hadith by Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina and found its inhabitants entering salam contracts with the price paid in advance in fruits for 1, 2, and 3 years. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever enters into a salam contract, let him specify a known volume or weight and a known term of deferment. Therefore, in this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam permitted this kind of trade where the price paid in full and well-defined object of the sale is delivered after a specific time. This prepayment of the price allowed the farmers to buy seeds, spend for their own sustenance, etc. in order to be able to produce the fruits. So during the early years of Islam, during the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Bai'u Salam was practiced, where the buyer pays in advance and the fruits are delivered after they are harvested. Most jurists made the analogy or qiyas from the permissibility of salam to the permissibility of istisna, which may be translated as commission to manufacturer. Commission to manufacture means the implementation to manufacture a certain goods. In the contract of istisna, the price is paid in installments, as the work in manufacturing or building and otherwise is not yet in existence. The price prepaid in installments in this case will often be lower than the cost of purchasing the finished product, if it were to exist, and can therefore be a useful tool for building schools, masjid, etc. Those two contracts are permitted. The Bai'ul Salam and Bai'ul Istisna are permitted as exceptions to the general rules of sale. So some people ask, Bai'ul Salam, in Bai'ul Salam, the goods are not yet in existence. How can you buy and sell goods which are not in existence? So this contract, Bai'ul Istisna and Bai'ul Salam, is is considered as exceptions. Although the goods are not yet in existence, the contract or the akad is considered valid. Ahmad, do you have any question or any comments? Akmal, any question or any comment?
Doctor, just want to ask,
Yes.
why this concept not so popular in Islamic banking rather than ijarah? Because for my understanding, for the housing also use the ijarah, even the construction unit.
Yes. There are many studies who tried to who made an attempt to examine the contract of istisna and the contract of ijara, and in certain banks they have SAC, Sharia Advisory Council of each bank, and they attempt to study the feasibility of istisna and ijara, and they found, or they are in the opinion, that the contract of ijara is is better from the perspective of the banks for some reasons. And one of the reasons is the low risk. So the bank, they want to minimize and mitigate the risk. So I think there is some risk involved when using istisna. And there are some other reasons which are mentioned. And so Ba'u istisna is not a popular concept now, and instead they use ijara. I think, yeah, I'm not really sure some other reasons. So the bank is trying to minimize the risk, and they will try to find products which are easier to implement and could minimize and mitigate some of the risk. I don't remember fully the research that they have done, but I think you should ask the banks themselves why they prefer some other concepts.
I want to ask another question about the payment for the salam and istinna. It means salam we must pay full, and istinna must pay in deferred.
The difference, one major difference between salam and istisna is, for salam, the payment must be paid in full before the items or the goods are delivered. Whereas in istisna, the payment can be made in full or can be made in installments. So that's the difference. Bai'u salam must be paid in full
before completion.
Before completion. In Bai'ul istisna, there is a choice of paying in lump sum or paying in installment. But usually in installment. Any other question or any other comment?
For the product, they have a specific product or not?
Istisna is a concept, and the banks or Islamic financial institutions can use this concept to offer many products. If you read the Sharia standard that I sent to the WhatsApp group on
Bank
yeah, I sent last night.
Yes, receive.
If you read the Sharia standard and operational guidelines, the SSC, Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara, has given the guidelines to use istisna, and in offering products based on istisna. So there are many products which can be offered by IFIs using the concept of istisna. So in this class, we try to understand istisna as a concept, and you have to. That's why I assigned the assignment for you to write about istisna and what kind of product offered by IFIs using the concept of istisna, the guidelines that IFIs have to use, the guidelines that IFIs have to follow, the operational, the operational, what do you call it, guidelines. So there are two sides of offering products by Islamic financial institutions. Number one is the Sharia standard, which needs to be followed, and number two is the operational guidelines, which also must be followed by IFIs. I wish we had time to go to the Sharia standard for each of the concepts, but I think we don't have time. So in this class, we use the book as our reference, and I give you the Sharia standard guideline, which you need to read in order to understand and also in order to do your assignment. Any other comments or suggestions? Akmal, Encik Akmal, okay?
Yes. Okay. And everything clear?
Okay. Some people ask, why istisna is allowed when, according to Shafi'is, for example, the subject matter must be in existence for any transaction to take place. So the answer is istisna and salam are two exceptions to the general rules of sale, which says, the general rules of sale state that the goods must be existent when the akad is implemented. So this is exceptions to the rules. So the contract of istisna, so some people say, has breached the most important rule of existence of the subject matter. But the Hanafis maintain that istisna is allowed by way of istihsan due to the needs of the people to it. On the other hand, some other jurists like Imam Malik, Imam Ash-Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad do not allow istisna to stand alone as a separate akad or separate contract, but they allowed istisna as a branch of salam. Therefore, all the conditions of salam contract must be met. What are the conditions of salam contract? Number one is the type or the genus of the commodity. Number two, characteristics. Number three, amount or quantity. And number four, the term of deferment must be known. And number five, that the price also be known. And the delivery must be done at the conclusion of the contract, and that the place of delivery must be specified if the transportation is costly. The Islamic Fiqh Academy considered the contract of istisna, in which it has decided that istisna contract is valid and binding on both parties, on buyers and sellers, if the conditions and terms of the delivered subject are satisfied. The Islamic Fiqh Academy decided that it is necessary for the validity of istisna that the nature, quality, and the quantity okay, I'm lost. Can you see the slide now?
Can.
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, I was lost. I was lost for a while.
Yeah. Maybe network, sir.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah, now I can see you. But sometimes
Yes,
sometimes disappear.
Yeah, sometimes it disappears.
Yeah, maybe the network. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the internet connection.
Yes, okay, sir.
Okay. So the Islamic Fiqh Academy decided that it is necessary for the validity of istisna that the nature, quality, and quantity and description of the thing to be manufactured are known, and a time period for the manufacturing of the subject matter is fixed and be known. And the Fiqh Academy also decided that it is permissible in a contract of istisna to defer the price or to pay in installments within a fixed time period. Number three, the Fiqh Academy also decided that it is permissible to include in a contract of istisna clause on liquidated damages. Ashaltul Ashalt al-Jazai. Ahmad, how do you pronounce? Ashaltul Jaza. Ashaltul Jazai. Ahmad, how do you pronounce it?
Total Gaza.
Ashartul Jaza.
Yeah, Total Gaza.
Okay. So Ashartul Jaza is liquidated damages.
Yeah.
So it is permissible to include in a contract of istisna clause on liquidated damages if the parties so agree, save for cases of force majeure. So in the contract of istisna,
Have a
the
liquid doctor,
yes,
doctor. Liquidity damage ni doctor have a example of what's the liquidity damage.
okay. What is the meaning of liquidated damages? For example, um, suppose the items is the house to be constructed. Okay, so liquidated damages include, for example, what's the example? Mr. Akmal, any example of liquidated damages? Orang bank
Example,
lagi pandai ni.
example for house under progress,
Yes.
in the 70% progress, and then the house is the buyer is not paying the progressive payment. So the bank have right to sell it to the third party or to cover the loss that been bear by the bank. Right, Doctor?
I think something like that. Yeah, it involves the problems which um, has to do with the payment. So, for example, the late payment or the
The construction problem or the contractor problem.
it can be it
Uh,
can it can be also.
for example, maybe in the akad, it say that by the August, house should be progress at least 80%.
Right.
But the contractor only do for 20%. So
Yes.
the buyer have right to cancel the akad, or bank have right to cancel due to third party problem. Either contractor or the buyer.
Hello, Encik Akmal. One more time.
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
under the during the akad, during the example during the construction
Okay.
maybe one problem can be made by the buyer. If the buyer usually referring for the payment, maybe late payment or void due to maybe, for example, in August should make at least 50%,
Okay.
but until August payment only made for 20%. So the third party, either bank, have right to sell the unit or to liquidate the asset due to minimize the loss. Or for contractor side, if the in August stated should complete at least 80%, but the contractor just do for 20%. So the bank also have the right to sell the unit in term to liquidate and minimize the loss.
Yes. There are
Correct.
many. Yeah. There are many examples of liquidated damages. Those are the examples.
Yeah.
Another example is, for example, the house is completed, right? The house is already completed,
Yeah.
but the buyer has not made a payment or late in making payment. And for example, in the contract, it can include a clause such as if the buyer fail to make payment within 3 months, the house will be, will be sold to another party. So that is an example of a clause of liquidated damages. So any other clause, any clause related to liquidated damages can be included in the contract. So there are many examples of liquidated damages, and these are usually included in the contract. Thank you, Mr. Akmal.
Okay, welcome.
You can refer to the actual contract of istisna. Usually
Oh.
the liquidated damages are included. Usually it's related to the payment, or it can be related to the the failure on the manufacturer side also. it depends on the contract of istisna. Is it between the bank and the manufacturer, or is it between the bank and the customer? Okay, Encik Syarul, does it answer your question?
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, understand. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you can, it's good if you have time, you know, refer to the actual istisna contract and see the clause on the liquidated damages. So different akad may have different clause. Ahmad, anything you want to add?
No, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Status of the istisna contract. Termination of istisna before commencement. The Hanafis are unanimous that the contract is not binding upon either of the parties, and the manufacturer may refrain from constructing the subject matter. On the other hand, both contracting parties have the right of revocation. Al-Kasani said in this regard that there is no dispute that istisna is not a binding contract unless the work starts and any one of the contracting parties has an option to revoke. So before the project begin, the termination of istisna can be done. However, once the contract begin, for example, the construction of the house started already, then it is no longer, you know, it's no longer, it can no longer be terminated unless it's agreed by both parties. Otherwise, it is binding once after the commencement. There are several scenarios. Once for example, the construction of the building started, there are several scenarios. The first case, the manufacturer may finish the construction of the subject matter, but the client has not yet seen the manufactured commodity. In this case, the manufacturer still has the right even to sell the subject matter to a third party. So in the first scenario, the manufacturer already finished construction of the subject matter, but the customer have not yet seen the commodity. So in this case, the manufacturer has the right to sell the subject matter to a third party. Al-Kasani argued that the fulfillment of obligation here is not restricted only to a specified thing, but it is something in the zimma, in the guarantee, which can be fulfilled by any similar commodity. Another situation where the required goods have been manufactured, have been presented to the client. Muslim jurists have different opinion whether the client has a right to reject the subject matter or not. Imam Abu Hanifa is of the view that he can exercise his option of inspection, khiyar ar-ru'yah, after seeing the goods, because it is not is a sale, and if somebody purchases a thing which he did not see, he has the option which he did not see, he has the option to cancel the sale after seeing it. The same principle is also applicable to istisna. So according to Imam Abu Hanifa, if, for example, the customer has never seen the product and only seen the product after it is finished, then the customer has the option, khiyar al-ru'ya. And after seeing the product, if he does not see the product as fit, he can cancel. That is also that is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. However, Abu Yusuf says that if the subject matter was in conformity to the specifications agreed upon between the parties at the time of the conclusion of the contract, the purchaser is bound to accept the goods, and he cannot cancel. So that is the opinion of Abu Yusuf. What's your opinion? Ahmad, what's your opinion on this one? For example, you go to a tailor, okay, you say, I want to order a shirt. So he made the measurement on your body. You never seen the shirt. And then he said, okay, come back in 2 weeks. That, and then after 2 weeks, you went and you see the shirt that he made.
Yeah.
So, do you have the right to cancel or not? Because you never seen the shirt until after 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, you go and see the shirt. So the question is, do you have the right to cancel or not?
Um, maybe cannot because he already agree about everything.
Yes. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, you have the right.
Yeah.
Hayarul ru'ya. You have a choice upon seeing the shirt that you have a right
Yeah.
to buy or not to buy.
Yes, sir.
However, according to Imam Abu Yusuf, you don't have a right to cancel if the commodity is made according to the specifications. For example, you go and buy the shirt, and the shirt is made with the correct specification. Then
Yeah.
it is binding. However, it is reported in Al-Muhit Al-Burhani that Imam Abu Yusuf has withdrawn from his first opinion and considered the contract of istisna as binding from the first stage, whereby none has the right to revoke the contract. Otherwise, the manufacturer will be harmed, and it is possible that he will not find the new buyer of the manufactured goods from him in time, or he may not get a similar price agreed upon with the former buyer. On the other hand, the manufacturer has undertaken to do the work and he should be obligated to finalize it. So Imam Abu Yusuf in the book Al-Muhit Al-Burhani said, it is binding. Okay, Ahmad, for example, if you go and order a shirt and after 2 weeks, the shirt is ready, then then it is binding. You have to pay. You have no choice except to pay. Because, the tailor already made the already made the shirt for you, and it costs him some money.
Yeah.
If you don't buy, he may not find another buyer, which will pay the same price. So, and he already, uh, involves his money, his time, his effort.
But sorry, sir.
Yes.
If the customer or the buyer want to cancel, so maybe have do short together or not? You have to be money and like that.
Yes. So according to Imam Abu Hanifa,
Okay.
you cannot cancel. You have to buy.
Okay.
Because
If I want to cancel, okay, maybe have short together, right? Damage.
yes. Um, it must be there is a complicated matter,
Oh,
because it must be agreed by both parties.
oh.
If the manufacturer agrees, then it's okay. It must,
Maybe I agree, but he will say to the buyer, you have to pay the for damage.
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a problem.
Oh,
So according to Imam Abu Yusuf, the buyer has no choice, but to buy,
okay.
unless the product is not according to specification, then
Okay.
the buyer can cancel. But if the product is, the shirt that he made is in accordance with the specification, there's no problem. You can wear the shirt. Then, according to Imam Abu Yusuf, the buyer has no choice
Yeah.
but to buy. You know, there's no choice but to buy. If he doesn't want to buy, the manufacturer will incur losses because it involves money, time, and effort.
Mm.
So it's simple. You have no choice but to buy.
Yes.
Doctor,
Yes.
have one question. Under this concept, if the seller requests for deposit at least 50%, is it
Okay.
follow Islamic concept or not follow the Islamic concept? Asking about the deposit before the completion of the good.
Yes.
Example, we go to the tailor,
Okay.
request for one shirt, and then the tailor say, at least you have to pay deposit 50%. It is
Uh,
follow the Islamic concept or not?
According to the akad of istisna, the payment can be made in lump sum or can be made in installment either before or after the completion of the goods. So,
As long as the akad concept.
yes. So
Okay.
the deposit is part of uh, the payment. It's part of the payment because the payment can be made in lump sum or can be made in installment. For example, the tailor said, okay, you have to make the payment in 2 installments. The first one is you have to make payment now, which they call it deposit, right?
Yes.
So you have to make a payment of 50% now, for example, and then the other 50% you pay when the shirt is ready. So that is allowed in the istisna.
Okay. Clear.
So whether they use the term deposit or no is another matter. So the payment can be made in installment. Maybe the question is, what if, what if the object or the material is not made to specification? You order a shirt, when you go and try it after it was tailored, it didn't fit. So that's a problem. So how do you handle that? Do you get back the deposit or not? That is another problem. So in the practice of buying a house, Mr. Akmal,
Yes.
so you want to buy a house, you have to pay certain deposit, for example, 1,000. And
Okay.
then suppose during the construction you cancel, you cancel, you don't want to buy the house. So the deposit should be returned back to the customer or not? In practice,
In practice, cancel due to what? Have to ask lah. If cancel due to maybe loan not rejected, have to pay back the deposit.
Okay,
If cancel due to customer suddenly change the mind, cannot be refundable.
okay,
There must be a strong reason to refund back the deposit. In
okay,
practice,
okay. Because there is a friend who cancelled simply because he wanted to buy another house. So the deposit was not returned back. And he asked me, is from Islamic perspective, what's my opinion? And I said, oh, I don't know yet. I think I said to him, refer to the contract. You know, if the contract states that the deposit
not
shall
refund.
not be refunded, then according to Islam, you should abide, you should follow the contract. So whatever is in the contract, we said. Because he was not happy, the deposit was not returned to him. He paid 1,000.
Usually, they will stick a note there in the receipt. Example, so customer have to read carefully lah.
Yeah.
Jadi the small term at the bottom of the receipt, example, stated all goods are not returnable or booking are not refundable. So have to read clearly the term and conditions stated lah before signing the term or the contract lah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said also. It depends on the contract. So if the contract states that the deposit is not returnable, then there's nothing you can do. You have to follow the contract. Because in Islam also, you have to follow the contract. Whatever that is agreed must be agreed. You have no choice, right? The only problem I think of for most of us is that we just sign the contract without, without even reading, without even understanding.
Reading of the term.
Yeah, most customers just sign the contract. They never read the contract. And then when something happens, they are not happy. I think it happens in most cases, or maybe in all cases. Customers, when they want to buy something, for example, they want,
But for customer, if
yes,
they want for refund, they can file in Tribunal Pengguna in Malaysia practice lah.
okay.
At least can bring to the Tribunal Pengguna. At
Hmm.
least kita can check either customer cancel due to change mind. But you
Hmm.
go to Tribunal Pengguna, the seller usually refund back the deposit lah. Not 100%, maybe as per discussion, maybe 50%. But the
Hmm.
customer still have right to claim for the deposit.
I see, I see.
But have to refer to Tribunal Pengguna at
Tribunal
KPTN.
Pengguna. Okay.
Yes.
I will tell
Nama
him
dia
that.
tadi?
Tribunal Pengguna.
Under KPTN HCP. Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri. They want
Okay.
you for Tribunal Pengguna. Anything refer, usually Tribunal Pengguna will help the buyer lah, not the seller.
Okay. Tribunal Pengguna. Okay. I will tell him that.
At least from the 1,000 maybe can get back 500, at least also can get back at least.
Okay. Okay. Okay, like we said before, the Hanafis are in the opinion that the Ba'ul Istisna, the contract, is not binding. Okay. So the Majil, the Al-Majallat, the Majil, disagreed with Hanafis. Article 392 of the Majil endorsed the opinion of Abu Yusuf and considered the contract of Istisna as binding from the beginning, where it provides that if the manufacturer brought the goods according to specifications, the purchaser will be forced, it will be binding to buy. The Majil also states that once the contract of Istisna is concluded, it becomes binding on the manufacturer to manufacture the object according to specification. You can download the Majil. This is a big volume. The Majil can be downloaded. It in Arabic is called Al-Majallat. Al-Majallat. And in English it's called the Majil. Try to go to Google and download the Majil. This is a big, it's a huge volume book, mostly used by the Hanafis as a reference in the Hukum. Al-Majallat, Al-Ahkam,
Al-Adillah.
Al-Adillah, right?
Yes.
Al-Majallatul Ahkam, Al-Adillah.
Al-Ahkam Adilliyah.
Al-Ahkam,
Al-Adilliyah.
Al-Adilliyah.
Adilliyah.
Yeah. Al-Majallat, Al-Ahkam, Al-Adilliyah. In Arabic. In
Yes,
English,
that's correct.
Ahmad, how do you pronounce?
Last question. Ahkam Aliyah.
Al-Majalat Al-Ahkam Al-Adiliyah.
Yes, sir. Aliyah.
And in English, the Majal. You can download in Google. It's good to keep as a reference for Islamic finance students. But it's
Majalah.
I think you can Google Al-Majalat Al-Ahkam Al-Adiliyah.
Al-Adaliyah.
Al-Adaliyah, right? Al-Adaliyah.
Al-Adaliyah. Majalat Al-Ahkam Al-Adaliyah.
Yeah, Al-Majalat Al-Ahkam Al-Adaliyah. You can download in Arabic or in English. There are two versions. This is a big book as a reference by the Hanafis. The Islamic Fiqh Academy considered the Aqad of Istisna, in which it has decided that Istisna, which is a contract, the subject matter of which are the goods identified by description and the provision of services, is binding on both parties if all the conditions and terms specified in the contract have been fulfilled. That is according to the Islamic Fiqh Academy. So if someone asks you, okay, you order a shirt, and then the shirt is delivered, and according to specification, can you cancel or not? The answer is, according to the Islamic Fiqh Academy, you cannot cancel, because it is the contract of istisna is binding on both the sellers and the buyers. If the conditions and terms specified in the contract are fulfilled. Yes.
For other example, for istisna. For
Okay.
simple example in our daily activities.
Anything that you order, for example, you order business card. Okay. Rubber stamp.
Okay.
You order book. You order book to be, you order buat binding paper kan, comb binding for example.
Yeah.
You order the shop to make a copy and then to make a comb binding, for example. Anything that you order cake. Okay. What else you order? Right now, there are many things you order through the internet.
Online.
You order cake, you order nasi lemak, you order many things you order, right? Anything that you order.
But how about Shopee?
Okay, in istisna, the good is yet to be manufactured. Benda tu tak dibuat lagi.
Okay.
Kalau Shopee, benda tu dah ada kan? But istisna is goods yet to be manufactured. Order baru dia buat.
Tempahan lah lebih kurang.
Tempahan. Ya, tempahan.
Okay.
But istisna ni tempahan. Goods ordered to be manufactured. Benda tu tak buat lagi.
Okay, betul.
Betul. Itulah setengah orang yang kurang berilmu, dia tanya, mana boleh? Benda tu tak order lagi, mana boleh ada jual beli? Salah dari hukum Syafi'i ni. Ada orang tanya kan. So dia sebenarnya boleh berdasarkan hadis tentang bai'us salam. Jadi kita buat qiyas lah, kalau Nabi membenarkan bai'us salam, kenapa tak membenarkan berdasarkan qiyas bai'ul istisna pun halal lah. Sebab kedua-duanya ialah menempah barang yang belum dibuat lagi. Cuma bai'us salam ni barang pertanian. Bayar dahulu bayar dahulu sepenuhnya, kemudian tunggulah. Misalnya kalau padi, bila dia dituai, dia dihantar kepada pembeli lah. Kalau itu bai'us salam lah. Kalau bai'ul istisna ni barang yang akan dibuat. So tempahan lah, baju, kek. Sekarang ni makanan macam-macam boleh ditempah kan.
Ya, betul.
Pizza lah, apa kita tempah dia mantap lah. Macam-macam, saya pun tak tahu nak sebut nama lah. Anak-anak saya duk tempah macam-macam. Apa nak sebut pun tak tahu nama dia. Nama Jepun pun ada, nama Korea pun ada. Yang tu bai'ul istisna. Okey, ada parallel istisna. Yang ni saya ingat boleh baca sendiri kat lah. Ni parallel istisna yang diamalkan di bank. Dia ada dia punya modus operandi. Let's see. In your assignment, I ask you to write on modus operandi. Modus operandi is a diagram. Dia satu diagram lah. Ini contoh modus operandi parallel istisna. Ahmad, last time you asked, what's the meaning of modus operandi? Modus operandi is how the concept is used by the Islamic financial institutions in order to introduce the product. This is an example.
Framework lah, Doktor.
Ya, framework. Dia cerita.
Framework lah.
Dia cerita prosedur dia lah. Prosedur dia. Modus operandi ni, prosedur dia. Dia ada langkah-langkah yang digunakan untuk dalam sesuatu konsep tu lah. Okay, this is an example of modus.
So in our assignment,
you need to draw a diagram like this.
okay.
This is called modus operandi. Ada dalam buku lah. Siapa yang buat istisna boleh guna yang ni lah, diagram ni. Diagram ni dipanggil modus operandi. Maksudnya step-step yang digunakan, langkah-langkah yang digunakan kan, dalam penawaran sesuatu kontrak berasaskan sesuatu konsep. Yeah, this is the modus operandi for istisna and parallel istisna contract. Okay, number one here. Okay, this is number one, istisna contract. A customer enters into an istisna contract with the bank, asking the bank to manufacture some specified goods. Here, for example, a house. And number two, the bank enters into a parallel istisna contract with the manufacturer, for example, the house developer, to produce the goods. That's number two. Number 3, the manufacturer, al-musani', al-musani', the manufacturer delivers the good, for example, the house, to the bank at the agreed specification. The manufacturer delivers the goods to the bank at the agreed specification, and the bank gives the manufacturer the agreed payment. The bank pays to the manufacturer. Okay, number 4 here. The bank then pays the price to the manufacturer. And then number 5, the customer, al-mustani' make the payment to the bank, usually in installment.
This one parallel ke, if meet the completed house or not completed house.
This is done before even the house is constructed. That is the meaning of istisna. The house is not yet constructed. The two istisna contracts are executed even before the construction started. And the two istisna constructed are executed at the same time. The first contract is between the bank and the manufacturer, and the second contract is between the customer and the bank. So that's why it's called parallel istisna contract. Mr. Akmal, the bank, it seems the bank are not keen on using the parallel istisna, right?
Yes, correct.
Maybe there are some problems related to this contract. I need to read more on the problems. Why the concept of parallel is not preferred. Instead, they prefer to use some other contract like ijara. I went to one seminar. I remember 2 reasons that they mentioned. One is the bank need to find concepts which minimize the loss. And the second reason, for the sake of simplicity, it seems like, you know, in order to write the contract, the ijara concept is much simpler and takes less risk.
I think my opinion, ijara is more specific.
Okay.
Then the is not, because completion maybe cannot be stated clearly in this concept. But in ijara, can put the term and condition more specific. I think that my opinion.
Yeah, for simplicity's sake, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for simplicity's sake means to avoid complexity in writing the
Yes.
contract. Yeah, that's what they said in one of the seminars. To avoid the complexity of understanding and writing the contract. Because, you know, parallel istisna is more difficult to understand.
And then this, in my opinion, this concept is advantage to the manufacturer.
Okay.
more advantage rather
Hmm.
than the customer.
Yeah. True. Because it is binding, right?
Yes.
It is binding. So, for example, once the house is completed, it is binding for the customer to buy and to make a payment, even though there are some problems with specification
Yes.
and the constructor or the developer, they are usually smart.
Mm.
When I bought the house, they said, okay, you are given 1 year
Mm.
to make any complaints. Okay, we guarantee anything happens during this 1 year period,
They will repair.
they will repair. But when we complain, they never came and repair. But it's um, it's quite difficult to go to tribunal or anything like that. So
Yeah.
we just
Take
ignore.
time.
We just ignore the small mistakes.
Maybe in Ijarah, bank act on behalf customer.
Okay.
I think that's why Ijarah more popular in current practice.
Yes. Because this one involves, two contracts
Yeah.
simultaneously, which
Mm.
makes it, quite difficult.
Mm.
Even in terms of the legal, legal perspective is also difficult.
Mm.
Okay, I think we stop now on the topic of is this not, and then next topic I think will be um, I forgot about the assignment. Let's see. We will follow according to the assignment. The first assignment is on istisna. Who who is responsible to write on istisna?
I think Ahmad.
Malaysia, me, man.
Ahmad.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good. So number one, contract of istisna and its applications in Islamic financial institutions in Malaysia. The next one is tawaru by tawaru. The contract of tawaru, and then musyarakah and ijarah is the last topic. So inshallah next week we will talk about the tawaru, the contract of
Inshallah, sir.
tawaru, inshallah.
Inshallah, sir.
Any question before we end?
Thank you, sir, so much for today.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you.
hopefully you can finish by the 5th of April,
Inshallah, sir.
5th of September, sorry.
But sir, the
Allah.
also because there's too many, sir, right? You
If
know?
if you cannot, then let me know. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you cannot
Okay.
finish on time, okay, let me know. Then I will give you more time. And okay.
Inshallah, sir. Inshallah, sir.
Inshallah.
So for each class, there are two assignments. This is the first assignment, I think, for this class.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, and the second class award also Fiqh.
yeah, for each class, two assignments.
Oh,
So it means, for example, if you take fiqh and usul fiqh, for each class, two assignments. Two class means four assignments.
la
Yeah.
ilaha illallah.
So lots of assignments for you, Ahmad. So you cannot, you cannot eat too much, you cannot sleep too much. You have to do your assignment.
Inshallah, sir.
So during this COVID-19, you cannot go anywhere. So
Yes, sir.
you better stay home and do your assignment. Okay. Try your best. If you need time, okay, let me know. I will give you the second assignment after you turn in the first assignment.
Right.
Inshallah, sir.
Inshallah, Datuk.
Okay. Any question before we end the class?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.